Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So the big news today is that the ratification of the constitution for the AXIE Infinity community is now live and live for the next 5 days. I thought it went longer than that. Oh well, 5 days at least. Okay, so this was announced. The constitution was announced last week. That basically is a fairly simple sort of 5-page document that they've been kicking around for the last year, which basically sort of sets out a framework really for how AXIE Infinity as a sort of blockchain project becomes more decentralized. At the moment, obviously, Sky Mavis pretty much runs it as a sort of centralized entity as the developer, as the creator and developer of it. But obviously, over time, most blockchain projects, any good blockchain projects at least, it looks to decentralize itself, which basically means the core developer will still have a lot of power probably for many years, but over time it gives up some of that power, with the ultimate aim that it will be one of a number of stakeholders who are involved, and maybe over time the main developer sort of goes bust or goes away, or and people from the community just sort of take over those tasks that are currently being done as a company. So it's quite a big deal, although this is just the sort of first steps of that. So interestingly, if we look here, actually there was something else. It's not actually the first proposal that's been ratified. So this hard forking contract. So this actually happened back in where are we? The 5th. That's May. More robust ways to delegate AXIE Infinity assets. So this is particularly something to do with the sort of the future sort of plans for the AXIE MMORPG. So that's particularly around land and stuff. So they voted on that beforehand. We can see 14.7 billion people voted for, and a few 272 voted no. So massively over. Massive majority for yes. So here we can have the same thing here. It's actually interesting. Already we're up to 14.2 billion voting power yes, and 8 million voting power no. So what does it mean? Well, we can go to detail. What's this going to give us? This is going to show us. So we can click here to look at the constitution if we want to, but we don't really want to do that. We can see here who's been voting. Obviously, we can see here some big wallets. So this is the voting power. We'll go into that a little bit, but we can see here some people with very big amounts of voting power have voted yes. We can see here there's a quorum. So quorum means the amount of people who have to vote. This is not actually listed in votes. Actually, this is actually listed in the currency, in the token, the AXS token. So 2 million people with wallets containing 2 million AXS tokens have to have voted to make this quorum, to make it legitimate, valid. I imagine that's already happened, given we've got this, whatever it was, 14 billion voting power. So 99.94 for 0.05 against. No, so we're not quorum yet. Okay, so only 1.25 million AXS tokens. So what's the difference between the tokens and the voting power? So you can see here, or you can sort of see here. Let's go back actually. Show it. Okay. So you can see in my voting power, this is just like a test wallet I have, and you can see how this sort of works out. So the majority thing is you have to have some AXS tokens staked. So that's AXS token staked into the reward pool, and you need to have at least one token staked. So I actually have 4.29 AXS tokens staked, so an enormous sum of money. What's that, even like $2 or something like that? But my AXIE score is 0. So this is like another sort of influencer. That if the more things you sort of do in the AXIE community, the more your AXIE score increases. So this is a test account, so I haven't done anything here. And we can just, is it going to come up with anything here? It's going to say if I had this badge here, I would get an AXIE score. That was just sort of one example at the moment. But at the moment I have four tokens staked, and I have a voting power of 2. So that's sort of how it, how this sort of thing works out. Let's not do that there. View detail. So here it obviously shows me here. It's also done on a snapshot. So this was actually done in August, end of August, 28th of August. They did a snapshot. So if I didn't have any tokens staked then and had just staked them today, I wouldn't have any voting power because there's still a snapshot going on there. So my voting power is 2, so I can cast my vote. It just comes up. I can obviously choose yes or no. It's a bit vote, obviously it's going to do a transaction. So that's I'm not looking into my wallet, so I won't actually do that now. But that's sort of the very basic sort of scenario. And obviously over time, this sort of voting mechanic is something that becomes more and more important. So obviously we've seen loads of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, over the history of blockchain. There's been a whole bunch of them. I guess the Maker DAO was one of the first really famous ones, first one I came across anyway. But there's tons of different DAOs. They've not really worked out terribly well, I would say, over time. It's quite hard to get people involved. People have done different sort of mechanics, like trying to get people, trying to sort of like pay people. I think that the MakerDAO actually, or certainly some of them, have paid people to sort of vote with small amounts of tokens. That's really gone away because you sort of get people sort of just making loads of accounts to get the rewards. But there are, if you care about an ecosystem, and obviously you should be voting on these things. And even in this case, this is quite a big. I say this is quite a big thing to vote on, the Constitution, but the Constitution itself is not really a big deal. But you want it to be quorum, so you want quite a high level of allowing people to. You want to force quite a lot of token holders to actually vote. So obviously this has just gone live today, so a long time to go. I'm sure it will pass the 2 million. And also we can sort of see here. We can see the AXIE score here. So their AXIE score is almost 1 million. So all these different badges that they've got there, and these sort of big whale accounts. Obviously, it's not telling you how much tokens they've got staked, but a whole bunch of stuff there. So these big whale accounts, and I'm sure there's some other bigger ones out there who are going to be voting as well. So anyway, interesting stuff. Not so much for the Constitution itself, I think, but more for the process it kicks off. And I guess over time we'll now to see more and more of these proposals going through and people voting on them, because that's what you want, to have a dynamic community that is voting on stuff. And that also means voting against stuff as well. So it's not always voting for. I mean, obviously you don't want to troll people, but if some things, if the DAO is working well, then some of the proposals should be a bit more contentious than knowing everyone's going to vote yes all the time. Anyway, so if you have any AXIE and you're in the, you have had it staked for the last couple of days, then you can probably go and vote. Otherwise, see you next time.